Hey everybody, good morning and welcome to day 2 of the Challenges for Charity. We're here today with Phyllis, the Divine Sorcerer Michael, and our student Daniel Bishop. Now, what we're doing here is getting ready to go through an exercise. But I want to cover up a little bit of some of the stuff that we talked about yesterday with our resident hermeticist, right? With getting your mind right, getting the mentalism component down to what it is you're speaking about, what it is you're focusing on and why. Mike, do you have any words about that you want to bring in this morning?
Well, focus on. Okay, mentalism. Want to focus on mentalism, have more clarity. Why? Because then I can teach the community how to use that mentalism, that focus in their everyday practice, not just their ritual practice, but their everyday life. How they can handle hurdles according to their mind's eye.
Outstanding, outstanding. One of the cool things right now too is that for all the people that don't understand or don't know these things or want to go deeper with these higher questions and they want to get an access to a resource, they can go to thegrayschool.net, and for the month of October the promo code is OZTOBER for Oberon Zell and the gift he has given of 1 free month's worth of tuition to any student that wants to learn higher principles of the history behind magics and these kinds of things. So acting as the dean of magical practice for that community, I have to say, by all means, grayschool.net, is an absolutely outstanding resource, and Oztober is the promo code for getting October free for the adult education platform. While for the students between the ages of 13 and 17, it's still full price, and there is only October available for that. So for those that are watching, get on that this month. Go take a deep dive into all of the stuff that's over there because it is really neat. Moving on to that, later this afternoon, what's really important is that when we get out of this Zoom group, this is a public challenge. Okay, so that means this group is the free group, and then we've got Paul Gordon coming to speak in the Q&A. So be sure to get those registrations in for that, and we'll be sending over the Zoom link to everybody present here so that they can be joining us there as well. Now, the thing about Paul is that he has taught billions of people how to speak without a script, which means when you're presenting things, you can do so in an interesting way. You can do so without the rote memorization. You don't need to speak from specific things that you're trying to read on a piece of paper and it's not translating into the vocal. He's got those components of his practice that's really outstanding. And you actually got a chance to go through that, Mike. Would you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, gladly. The man is exceptionally good at his job. As everybody knows, I read from a script. Because of my heart attack, I can hardly remember things. So I have a bad memory when it comes to that. But working with Paul for that hour, he had showed me how to, jot down little notes and how to remember what I'm speaking on, how to put the character per se into what I'm presenting. He's just really good, really easy to talk to. I had a lot of fun talking to him. He's an awesome person. And I encourage anybody that's having problems with this type of thing, if you're doing scripts or whatever, give this guy a shot, man. Listen to what he has to say because he's a very knowledgeable man.
The thing about scripting is, it's like I can't drive that point home enough. As a retailer, one of the first things that you do with a new hire is you give them a script and say, this is what I want you to say, but I want you to say it in your own words.
Right.
That's the thing that they should be saying, but they never let the individual say it in their own words, right? It's always, this is the scripted bullshit. This is the stuff that you have to read off a teleprompter. This is the stuff outside of this, you're not allowed to say it. And we all know that's bullshit. Because there's always a way to say stuff. There's always a way to communicate what you're trying to do in an organic manner. And that becomes the problem, is that too many people are reliant upon, oh my God, I have to say in a very limited phrasing these things, right? They don't get native speakers of the language to write their scripts. They just do it in a way that is way too rigid. Like they don't allow for the creativity of the individual to shine through the words that the individual might speak themselves around that same topic. And so one of the easiest things to do is to figure out a way to do pattern interrupts. Okay. And so what do I mean by that? I mean, like for me as a retailer, when people would walk through the front door, I'm like, hey, how are you doing today? And they're like, no, I don't need any help. And it's like, that is not what I asked you today. I said, how are you doing? Are you here for something fun? Like, what adventure can we go on? Right? For me, that was just trying to break the ice and get them outside of dealing with where they think they're at in their head, where they think they're going to be in their head, so that what they get next is going to be like, oh, wait, this guy is just trying to have a conversation. He's not trying to get me to buy the 13-inch dildo on the wall over there, right? Now, you have to figure out this for your own thing, but it can't be rigid. It has to be organic. If you're giving a tip, it has to actually be a tip. If you're giving help, it has to actually help. And one of the really cool things about what Phyllis has been doing is she's been giving those tips. She's been going alive and intentionally structuring how to help with her project, right? And so one of the things that we got to do and get better at with what you're doing in the mentalism stuff, Mike, is to be able to break that stuff down for you a little bit easier, get you going a little bit of that easier digestible tips for the divination, so we're not running videos that are 15-20 minutes long. Right. And a couple of really cool things that we can do is to consider intentional progression. Okay. And I did the interview with Justin Yip. He's going to be one of the speakers tomorrow, which is really cool. He's got platform available, right? Like, what do I mean by platforms? He's got a group for entrepreneurs where he's allowing new and early stage entrepreneurs to come on and talk about their thing. So he's providing opportunity for people that don't necessarily have the stages. They don't have the money for the big events. They're not there yet, but they still need to reach people to begin that dialogue. They still need to cut their teeth, so to speak, on the practice. So Justin provides a place for that, you know. And what are you going to talk about when you get there? That's good. That's going to be the biggest thing. Like, what kind of shit will you talk about on somebody's stage when it relates to what you're doing, as it serves the people that are listening and the people who might hear it later and the people that it might get filtered or recommended down to. And one of the hard parts about doing all of this is that what you say needs to have a lifespan longer than what you think, right? There's what you're doing immediately on hand right now in this event, right? But this event also serves as a placeholder because I intend to donate this challenge back to the grade school so that the students there, as they progress out of their classes and into the journeyman training and into their master's level education, right? Because it is a certification program. It is a 7-year study course. It is an institution of learning, right? And so we have to be able to give practice to that learning. So this becomes an evergreen system of practice that then translate to a legacy that we give to the kids, right? So as adults, as people in the industry, developing our businesses at various stages, right? Like Phyllis is a USA Today bestseller, same with the New York Times bestseller. Like, she has cut her teeth on the insider access to the industry, right? And as you're going through and you're welcoming people into the Academy's hermetics programs, right? It's going to be the introduction to hermetics. It's not going to be the same kind of hermetics training that you're going to get from Mel Strangefellow, who's the head of the Order of St. Cyprian, who's been doing it for the last 40 years, right? When it comes to magic and sorcery, the initiatory paths versus the open paths are different, right? Initiations are closed systems. What we're able to talk about and deal here is an open system, okay? And so when it comes to your business, when it comes to what it is you're going to structure for your people, you have to have a closed system and you have to have an open system, okay? So what does this mean? You have to have a community that's kind of like a secret society where everything goes first. Those are the people that you've served the longest, okay? That would be people for Phyllis, that are like Bob, one of her clients, right? One of my dear friends, one of her clients, and other people that she's going to be serving with her coaching program as they go through training their body and getting everything back on track so that they have a longevity plan in place, right? So that as they age and as their bodies do what their bodies do, she can help you structure that, right? And Michael, you've got the hermetics class and the paranormal thing. Everything that we're doing is to serve people in a progression. So as Daniel grows into his practice, and as you go through and go into the world of business, you now have tools that are normally way outside your pay grade, right? It takes you from training inside somebody else's job as just an hourly employee. And if you could master these techniques, then you can pull together whoever you want for whatever purpose you want, for the purpose of elevation, education, and service to the community. So it allows you to serve the community by proxy of what you're doing in live time. So what I'm going to have you guys do in order to be able to demonstrate, again, tangible actions is I want you to go live on your Facebook page. I want you to stream this onto your Facebook page. Okay? Mike, you did it yesterday. Daniel, do you know how?
I do not know.
Okay. So go in your description like you would be making a post. Okay. As if you would be making a post, go where it says live. It's going to ask you if you wanted to do schedule an event or if you want to just go live.
All right. Let me handle this.
Training, marketing, development, getting everything out there, reaching new social circles, reaching new audiences. This is what you've got to get used to doing, you know? You shouldn't be afraid of hitting the go live button. It should be like, hey, we're doing this thing. Let's do this thing. You know, one of the fundraiser aspect for this community challenge is for that orphanage down there in Pakistan, right? So as we raise funds for this, we can take care of those kids that can't take care of themselves, right? And so this is my version of how do I want to help the world with what I do. As I think about for those that I can help now, I think about for those that I can help next, for those that I can never help, I also include. So how do I help people that I'll never help? And I have to use proxies for that. I have to have people that act as the intermediary that still carry the message forward and won't corrupt it. They have to act as a steward of that information, right? And so this is where people like Pete Vargas, Dean, Tony, you know, Grant Cardone, funny enough, Garrett White, Pedro Deo, Bob Cosper, all of these people are stewarding a type of stacked relationship that allows them not only to master the marketplace that they're in, but also to begin to take land or to be able to take effect in other industries. And so creating intentional progression is one of the most important things that we can do, which brings us back into our topic today. Okay, so the first thing I want you to do is I want you to think in the terms of levels. I don't want you to think of this as a blueprint. Blueprints are too rigid. The first level that I want you to think about is what is your required operation. What are you required to do for the thing that you need to do, right? In this case, today, you are required to write a blessing. Today, you are required to have goals. Today, you are required to have something that gives you form for what you'll do next, right? And so that's the standard of operation for what we require today. Now, in business, that looks like an opening list if you're in a retail environment. Like, again, I said I was a retailer. So like, this is where I have 15 years of doing this every day, right? You walk in, you turn on the lights, you turn on the music, you turn on the air conditioner, you do all the display lights, you turn on, whatever moving little widget that we have for the window display, and then we turn it all on and then hit the open sign, unlock the door, we're ready to go. Day starts. At the end of the night, we reverse that process, right? In ritual magic, it would be, what is the opening prayer that we speak so that the gods can hear us? In business, what is the first thing that we do in the day in order to be able to serve our clients? So like Phyllis, what she was doing this morning, getting everything ready for her video, right? Trying to get her film produced and trying to figure out new avenues for that. That's good. But is it the right operation at the right time? Right. And so getting to those nuanced levels, right? Like there's the funnel that needs to be built. There's the community that needs to be connected to. There's the copy that needs to be written for emails for whatever's coming up this week that you need to let people know about. Like those are operational considerations that you should think about. It's like, okay, well, whenever you write an email, right, you need to send it to a bunch of people. Well, if you have a Google Drive that lists all of your emails so that it's just copy and paste, it becomes really, really easy to do this. So if you structure your first level under these kinds of ways, you start to create a schema, not a blueprint. And it doesn't matter what it is. It relates to whatever it is that you're doing. That's what makes it a schema, not a blueprint. Blueprints are only if you're going to be building the same thing over and over and over again, right? This is how you create something that you can build endlessly, no matter how you want to do it. Okay, so you've got your standard structure, right? You write down the standard shit that always is the same. So that means click the go live button. That means copy and paste the emails. That means all the really boring shit that should be on your list so that we can just check it off and you can go down the list and you'll be done. The next level, the second level, what are all the things about what it is that you need to talk to somebody about that they need to know in relation to what you're trying to get them to do? And this is where people get a lot lost in the weeds, right? Like this becomes the books, this becomes the worksheets, this becomes the courses you write, this becomes the podcasts you do, this becomes the video challenges that you create, this becomes all of this stuff, right, at level 2 that you're trying to get people equipped with information relating to what it is that you do so that they can start to do. Okay, does that make sense so far?
Mhm.
So what do they need to know about what you're doing that would allow them to do it also? Okay, and this is the level 2 stuff. So not only do they need to have the list of operations and the standard operation procedures done, but what about other stuff in relationship to it do they need to know, right? Again, in a retail environment, it's clean the plastic with 409 and Windex so it keeps it shiny, but don't use the 409 on the metal treads on the lingerie racks because it leaves a greasy residue. Only Windex works, right? That's a structure of something that you can do that's required to know, because otherwise, if they didn't know it, then it makes it a mess on the sales floor and then everything just, it gets gross. And so then you spend more time cleaning up after their shit, right? That's the kind of thing that you have to think about. What is the structure of that operation? Why is that operation important in that moment, right? And again, if you don't tell them the right thing to do, they'll make a mess on your sales floor, and then you have to spend 6 hours cleaning up what they just fucked up the last 6 hours, right? So it's unnecessary work that you could prevent if you teach them appropriately, right? If you structure your stuff So that way, when they come to it the first time or the second time or the third time, it just falls into place and it doesn't even require a thing, right? The third step, your third level of operation that you need to consider are the methods, okay? The methods that you've discovered firsthand from experience with the customer, the methods that you've learned firsthand after listening to whichever influencers speak about that particular subject as it relates to the thing you're trying to accomplish, right? So as you're trying to accomplish these things, as you're trying to engender change for people, what have you heard other people say, right? What has Pete said? What has Russell said? What has Dean and Tony said? What has Grant said? What has Garrett said? What is Phyllis saying? What is Mike saying? What is Paul saying? Right? All of these people saying something in relation to the thing that you're trying to do. And so if you can understand that part, then you've got your level 3 material done. And that conversation where you're including other voices, right? And now number 4 would be the best use of it. What is the best use of your material, right? So Mike, you're my best use. Same with Daniel. You guys have been studying this stuff for the last 9 or 10 months, right? You know firsthand what this part's like, right? It's the qualities of authority, the conviction that you are using this stuff daily. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like, what have you experienced when it comes to the best use of the method? Mike.
Yeah, the best use of the method. What have I learned? Well, I learned that not everything is evil. All right. Not everything is as they say it is. I have learned through method that you're able to connect to something higher. And now I knew this when I went into paranormal investigating. I knew there was things out there that you couldn't see, couldn't hear, couldn't feel. It was only when I got into practicing the craft that I realized that there's not just one God, but there's many gods. And you are able to communicate through them by just walking through the woods and touching a tree. You're able to communicate with these things by using these in your daily life. Walking out drawing out a sigil, putting herbs according to the planetary placements, putting your blood into them, putting a crystal on them with your cauldron and calling forth these entities, these forces. Like, I knew they were there, but I didn't know how prominent these things were until I actually got into the nooks and crannies, the mathematical system of what I was doing. Thus, it became much more real, and I rely on them every day in my walk.
And so that's a different type of method than the different kind of method that Phyllis is learning. Phyllis, if you join us for a sec, if you're when you're out there and you've got all of the influencer stuff that you, right? You go to the events, you go to the private communities, and you learn a bunch of different methods, right? Can you speak on some of the challenges that you found when trying to apply other people's methods without structure to your thing?
Good question. Well, I think it's goes back to what you said initially about having notes, about giving somebody a formula or a script. I think it goes back to that. It's the very same premise that you they may be doing it a certain way, and they may have their formula for their audience, but that doesn't mean it works for yours, or it doesn't mean that you could just take what they're doing and supplant it on what you're doing, because A, it won't come across as authentic because it's not who you are. And B, it may not be appropriate for your audience. I'll give you an example. So, we all know these people, Grant and Tony and Dean and all of them in this space, right? Although people outside of this space don't necessarily know who they are, which is interesting because we think they're these household names, but they're really not. But I've said this for a long time. So I'm in this space with elder care, more along that line, caregiving, and more touchy-feely kind of thing. And I don't think sending emails to people 10 times a day would work for them. They're busy, they're stressed, they're overwhelmed. I think it would be more seen more intrusively than anything else. So that's what I'm getting at, that you have to know your audience, your space, and do what's authentic for you and for them, not just take what somebody else is doing.
Exactly.
Does that answer your question?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And it goes right into the next point, right? My next point for your fifth level of operations is you need to consider the flaws of the system, right? Where is the breaking point of the system? For Phyllis, it's 5 emails a day. But see, for when it comes to when I need to be reminded of an event, I need that shit stapled to my face. If I'm not there, if I'm not getting that email in the morning or the one that reminds me the night before, I'll forget to be there. Like, thank God for Mike, because I've had to ask him like a couple of times, be like, all right, on this date, I got a meeting coming up. Please remind me if I'm going to talk with you that I have to go do this thing. Right. And that becomes a simple method that I can overcome my ADHD or the lack of like my note. Like this one was a thing on the 7th. That is actually what I was referring to, so that it's stapled to my face, like it's right there. And one of the things that you're going to get into when it comes to all the ads that you see out there in the world, all the people that are talking about, oh, their thing is so awesome. Who's using it? How is your thing so awesome? Like, yeah, you did the money thing. Great. You did the money, right? But what is the success? What are they doing with it? Right? How did they use your thing to fix the problem? And for when I say for Pete and Dean and Tony and these guys to fix the problem, what did they do with regards to what I created? They walked it the fuck out and they've made millions as a result, right? Well, what does that look like? That means mastermind.com with creating a list of coaches, right? And creating a community whereby they're trained on how to create courses or how to deliver courses. But you know what they're not trained on how to doing? They're not trained on what to do with that course. They're not trained on, okay, now you've got the course and you're done, right? That was what Project Next Level was for. That's what their 3-stage event was for. So that by the time you were done with that 3-stage event, you started getting the jobs, you started getting the client calls, you started sending those complicated emails out, right, to certain influencers in order to be able to get them aware of your project, right? A flaw of my system is that it requires people to be so secure in their business that no matter what their business operations are, they can integrate their business into somebody else's without problem, right? But it also requires that they understand that it's not just the course that they're selling. It's not just the book that they've written. It's not just the podcast that they do. It's not just the YouTube channel that they have, but it's the staging of why each one matters, right? If I'm going to send an email to somebody, or if I'm going to send a chat to like Daniel or Phyllis or to Mike about a thing, there's going to be photos, there's going to be video content, there's going to be a description, there's going to be a reason why. That way, there is a full sensory immersion into that which they see, that which they hear, that which they read, that which they write. So that way it hits all points, and then the different aspects of their persona get to learn that material according to that type of education model. So their subconscious responds better when they write. Your subconscious also hears things, right? What you say is your conscious mind. What you see is your conscious mind. So it programs both your consciousness and your subconsciousness in order to be able to get these programs into you, right? But again, the flaws is if you're not able to do the thing, or you just don't feel aligned to it, which is a cop-out bullshit excuse, right? Again, that's a flaw. When you're trying to say, oh, something's not aligned, that means, oh, you don't know how to make it align with you. And that becomes your limitation, not the individual, right? So when people are saying, oh, their work isn't aligned to you, or oh, they're not aligned to whatever thing that you're up to, right? That just means that they're not clever enough to figure out how to make their business do more than one thing, right? That's the way I look at it, because what Pete has done, what Gene has done, what Tony has done, what Russell has done, what Grant has done, what Garrett has done, what Phyllis is doing, all of these people are creating lists of interactions that transcend the immediate individual right in front of them. So it taps into an audience that's bigger than they are, right? So by me telling Pete how to do stuff, that then allows Pete to do that stuff with all of the people Pete gets to see, all of the people and all of the rooms that Pete gets to go into. It allows for an organic structure to occur whereby that flow of energy is directed back at the method. And it's seamless, right? Whatever your thing is, if you think about it in these steps and you're writing these steps through, what are the flaws of your system? You can figure out who will be the reinforcement to fix, who will be the support for it, right? In this case, I'm not a longevity guy, but as people age, especially in the practice, we are looking to care for our elders just as much as get the wisdom of the practices out of them. We need someone like Phyllis, right? When people are going through complex life situations, we need someone like Mike who's gone through complex life situations. When it comes to new journeys and innovations, you're going to need someone like Daniel to think about it. Because the shit you come up with, man, is just amazing.
Thank you.
Right? And so that moves us into level 6. Okay. Level 6 is the best use of the system and its operations. Who is doing what with it? How are they doing it? Right? Why is your book relevant? Why is your challenge relevant? Why is your word relevant to the marketplace? What's the best use of it? Right? Where does it precede you in the marketplace? Who's applying the concepts that you've instructed them on so flawlessly that they're able to affect the lives of others in the exact way that you're attempting to describe? So that's what you need to write for your level 6. Right? What's the best use of this that you want to see in the marketplace in relationship to what you want? Because if you can do that, then the goals of what you want, which is your level 7, transmit to the individual, and you've enrolled them by the time they've gotten through it. Because now you've got 7 different kinds of conversations you can have with an individual. You can talk about the flaws of your system, and then you can talk about the best use, and then you can talk about the mentorship that you've had along the way with the people that you need to fill in the gaps with, right? Because there's going to be millions of people that are going to listen to you, and then there's going to be millions of people that will not listen to you. So finding who's going to be the one that they're going to listen to, finding someone who's a voice for them. Like, I can't talk to women, not like a woman could talk to a woman, right? Like, that's what Sandy needs to do, right? That's what Robin needs to do. That's what Phyllis needs to do. Elevate the female contingent, right? Give a voice for the touchy-feely stuff that I'm not going to talk about. But they can talk about it, right? And again, it goes back to how does your business serve others, and what are you going to be able to do is once you get really clear on like, this is the thing that you can do, but there's always going to be somebody who can do it just a little bit easier, a little bit better, a little bit more information. And that's okay. You work with them, not against them. You create a collaborative project with them. You do a revenue share split on it so that what you guys put in equally effort-wise comes out at the back end equally funded-wise. That way you're not getting screwed. That way you're not getting scammed, shafted, lost in the journey. right? Your intentional progression works with other people instead of each to their own, right? So that way, as you go through this, as you develop more onto what is your own, you have a foundation that provides for people. You have a resource that gives them that next step without giving them a script. Right? It's like, I could talk about 7 levels of shit all day long. Like, you could, what do you want to do over here? What are the goals of what you want it to do? An in-person location for people to be able to learn these things so that they can retreat from their normal life, right? And they could walk on a campus and then spend 9-10 months to a year, right? Do a deep dive into the occult. And by the time that they come out of it, they end up being a world-class presenter, right? How's that for one? By the time they come out of it, they're able to talk about with purpose, with clarity, with focus and experience around the thing that they're doing. And so you can compress time for people. If you can compress time, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, whatever, into a conversation, right? Talk about the years you've spent doing a thing or the way that a thing works through lifetime and practice, you end up with something that is a lot more organic, a lot more developed, and free from the scripted crap. So that way, that interaction between you and your customer becomes something that is real. So when they come back, they seek your services. They want to know what else, what next? I did the thing, what's next? Right? And it's that they seek the journey. People ask the questions and then you give them the answers. You don't hold back from giving them the answers. It's like, if I held back from you guys, teaching you guys sorcery, do you think that you would be anywhere near where you guys are today? Right? And so get asked these questions in business, right? You get asked, how do you do this thing? Or what's the history of this thing? With relationship to whatever it is that you're teaching. And you should be able to answer those questions. You should be able to go in depth on those questions, nerd out about them, right? And you need to be able to provide a lot of things for free in the beginning in order to be able to build traction and connection, okay? The difference is what you see in Facebook isn't the whole story. That's just portions of the story. That's just where stuff is stored in the form of notes, quick videos, quick resources, quick actions, right? It's the books that you guys read. It's the secondary recommendations. It's the considerations of why those things are important. Take it a step further, it's how you use them. So what have you done with that information? What have you applied that information to become? Right? Again, 7th, 8th level stuff is what is the application of that after you have the goal established? Who's going to use it? Why are they going to use it? When are they going to use it? For what are they going to use it? Right? Yes, we can drink water. We need to know how to drink water, right? When are they going to do that? What are you going to drink water? Are you going to drink water before your meal? Do it what, an extra, like Phyllis said? You include an extra bunch of stuff that you wouldn't otherwise in your system, right? You're hydrating your system more than what you would have otherwise done, which will lead to better health, right? You think about things in a way that, how does this serve others if I say it? Your mentalism is right. You know, you're able to focus this stuff down. But it's these structures that you can look at, and it's not a script. It's a schema. It's a standard operating procedure. Yeah, because you have 7 or 8 considerations. But that's all they are, is they're considerations, because it allows you to choose, unlike a blueprint, unlike a script, unlike bullshit. So that way what you're doing is your choice. So when you're in that moment of service, when you're in that moment with your customer, when you're in that moment with your client, your student, your apprentice, whatever you want to call it, right? there is going to be the best application of your stuff. There's going to be the worst application of your stuff. What's going to be that place that they fall into, and how do you meet them there? Right? It's like we have Robin, a member of our community, who's in a very difficult situation, right? That takes a bit of a different approach than my standard approach with Michael Daniel, right? It requires the more touchy-feely aspect that I'm not good at. I'm not that kind of guy. I'm not. But there are coaches, there are influencers, there are people who are. And so I'll learn technique from them in order to improve. But at the same time, I'll invite them to come do where I cannot, right? Again, this goes back to what we did with Paul and Michael. I can't teach someone to get off the script in the same way that Paul can. And so that's what becomes the benefit of having the security and knowing that no matter what it is that you're doing to serve your people where they're at, right? It doesn't have to look like everybody else's shit. It doesn't. It can look like a little bit of Paul. It can look like a little bit of Pete. It can look like a little bit of Dean. It can look like a little bit of Russell if you have to use his constant frustration software. I mean, it's ClickFunnels, for God's sake, like CF, constant frustration. But he'll teach you how to use it in 5-day boot camp, right? He'll get you that foundation. Or Grant will teach you the principles of real estate investing or whatever else he's currently cooking up. God only knows, right? So as we do this for our community, it's easy enough to get into these routines of, well, I'm just going to do the same thing over and over and every day. I hope it works, right? You can't do that. You can't do it that way. You have to have that intentional progression of today I'm going to do marketing. Tomorrow I'm going to do posting. The next day I'm going to do follow-up. Just because it makes it easier, you know? It really does. I was reading a chat yesterday for a local Southern California men's group. And one of the guys was like, okay, well, they got a new trainer in and they're talking about, you know, what are you doing in each minute of your day, right? And the guy was complaining because he thought it was micromanagement. And it's like, no, take a step back for a minute, motherfucker, and chill, okay? Look at the shit you're doing in a day. What are you doing that's unnecessary that you can cut out doing so you can just stop doing it? What bullshit activity can you just stop because it wastes time? You don't need a funnel if you have no clients. You need to get clients first. So client acquisition should be your target, right? How do you want to streamline your clients? Well, if you don't have them, it doesn't matter. If you're trying to get them, what events, what stages, what connection, right? And then you need a funnel. If you're going to go on somebody's stages and say, hey, look, go to this website. Here's a free book, right? Boom. Funnel is necessary. Collecting emails. What are you going to do with those emails? Well, if they're not showing up to your event, I'm a replay. Get them to that next level, right? Get them to engage in the same kind of way where yesterday I told you guys to do an exercise. And then the very first thing this morning, I'm reinforcing that exercise, making sure you do it because it's important, right? People, generally speaking, don't want to do actions because they think it doesn't apply to them, right? They think that what you're doing, what you're saying doesn't apply to the situation at hand. And it's like, yes, it does. If you're in the space of teaching, if it's in your time to teach the thing and you're not teaching a thing and you're just sharing something that's kind of conjecture or if that leading on to like, yeah, those are for ads. But if I'm going to waste my time in a class, I don't want 40 minutes of lead in. I want immediate, let's begin and let's end on time. I don't know about you. What do you guys think? You guys like when, when we have those fun Saturday afternoons, we're smoking the weed, we're chatting about the magic, we're getting all the stuff, right? But there's shit that's getting done. You guys are doing the exercise, facing the directions, making the conjuration, right? There's a lot of people that don't do that. They sit there and they talk and they talk and they talk. but you're not getting stuff done. So what are you getting done today? What are you going to do in relation to these 7, actually 8 levels, right? What are you going to think about? What's going to be the best use of your system that you're going to write down? What's going to be the goals that you want to write down? Okay. Because as we go in tomorrow, as we get ready for tomorrow, it's going to be the tier rating. It's going to be the layers in which you apply these levels. So think about those today, right? So take some time today to go through what is the best use of your system? What are the flaws in your system? What are the required bits of information that people need to know in order to use your system? What is the required thing that you had to learn in order to be able to use your system? What are these questions that you have to ask yourself that you then have a roadmap that you can build for anybody else, regardless of what it is? Because if you can do that, then you can create that intentional progression. You'll know who, but you'll also know why. And it's just questions. But it's those questions that you get yourself, right? Why do people in your industry need to know you? What people in your industry will know you best? Like what I would say for Phyllis is that we need to get you working with people that are graduating from nursing schools. We need to get you the graduating classes. We need to get you right on the cusp of when these people leave their education system and they're right about ready to start their work, but they need to get extra tips from people that are inside the industry. And it's that space and it's that model of space where I find that it fits in the best. So when it comes to entrepreneurship, for example, it's like people that lose their job and they're in crisis state. People that are out of work, people that are available for time. The fact that they won't improve themselves and they just expect the world to change. No, you have to personally grow. You have to get your mind right. You're responsible for your thoughts. You're responsible for your actions. If people in the marketplace don't like your personality, guess what? Change your personality so you fit into the marketplace. Be a pleasing person. Be more amenable. You can't just be you and expect that to be okay. You have to adapt, or you'll wind up limiting yourself in a lot of situations. You won't find the people that you're going to get the best use with. You won't find those connections that you're looking for, right? And so it starts off small, but it grows. Shit. Phyllis, we were at that one gentleman's birthday party, right? And it was through secondary conversations about where to go in an RV trip that opens up deeper conversations that Phyllis is still enjoying, right?
Absolutely.
You know, it's business comes in all forms. What's the form of your best use? And so if you get the opportunity to do this, do that exercise. Write out 7 layers, 8 layers, 9 layers of all of the things that we talked about today. And that gives you 9 months of operations. Figure out, okay, well, in month 1, I'm going to focus on stage 1. In month 2, I'm going to focus on step 2. On month 3, I'm going to focus on step 4. On month 5, I'm going to. Do you see what I'm saying? And congratulations, you've just planned your year. You've planned 1 year going through each of the different things. Because some things might take you 2 months to set up, right? What would take 2 months to set up, for example? All of the shit you have to do in order to know that on this day, you're going to talk about this project. On this day, you're going to talk about this project. On this day, you're going to talk about this project. Because by the time they're done with the project, they're going to have an entire understanding of the discipline if they follow along. If not, you've already done it. So then by the time month 2 rolls around, now you can talk about, okay, so a month ago, watch this video that we did about this because it relates to this topic that I'm about to start. So it creates relevancy and crossover. It's that relevancy and crossover that provides that next step, right? It's that next level of engagement. Why do you read the book that I wrote 10 years ago? Is because on page 200, you're going to need to know the spell that's there because it's directly relating to today. Your books should function the same way. Why do they need to read your book? What passage is going to be really important for them to understand that talks about exactly the moment where you had this experience the first time? So it relates back. You have to have relevancy. Why do they need to know module 7 of course 3 versus module 1 of course 2? Right? Why? People aren't going to watch your shit just because. They need to know reasons why. So you have to give them that reason. You have to inspire that reason. You have to enroll them in that reason. Right? I mean, Mike, can you give us a little bit of a wrap up on that one day that we had when I went through that list of pages? You remember that? It's like I pulled out this sheet of shit that I was just saying. They're like, oh, I did that. Oh, I did that.
Yeah, we were like going over how far I've come since, being in the academy for 8 months. And he's like, well, the first thing is this. I'm like, yeah, I did that. And the second thing was this. Yeah, I did that. Well, the third thing was this. I'm like, wait a minute. I remember going through that, but I didn't know I completed that. Okay, so yeah, I did that. Third thing, fourth thing, fifth thing, sixth thing. And we got up to like the 8th thing. He's like, this is the 8th thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just did that. He's like, congratulations, you completed. I'm like, holy shit, I didn't even realize it. To me, it was just fun. It was just, like doing everyday daily activities. Like I was enjoying getting to know the cards. I was enjoying writing out the spells. I was enjoying putting the chemicals together from the planetary. I was enjoying doing it, not realizing I was learning it. Like, it was great. It was great, man.
Daniel, you've been in a little bit more of an open source kind of way when it comes to these kinds of things, with how you've learned and adapted to do these kinds of practices. You don't spend nearly as much time with me as Mike does, but you still apply this stuff. Like, what can you say has been some of the challenges as far as how you've learned this stuff?
Let's see, the challenges of which. It's been very, under your guidance, it's been very, very easygoing. I'm trying to think of what limitations there might have been, but I actually find it very difficult to think of them. Let me think. Honestly, challenges. Well, I don't know. It has been very adaptable, very digestible. Something comes up and everything changes, to suit that better.
Yeah.
Something happens or, something occurs and it molds around to suit that situation. And in doing the stuff that we do, challenges are generally limited to begin with. Financially, etc., as the thing I talked about earlier, before the recording. All of those modern day heavy hitting issues can be more or less absolved with relative ease. Makes it easier.
And that is excellent. Phyllis, any final thoughts on some of the challenges that you've experienced as an entrepreneur trying to squeeze yourself into somebody else's box?
So I just want to comment on something that you said, which it just resonated with me so loudly. It was actually like, one of those loud bells at the carnival when the gong to raise this, when you hit it and you raise this ball that hits this thing at the top. Anyway, it was like that. That's how it hit me. When you said, don't create a funnel until you have the clients.
Yeah. So,
Love it. Love it. Love it. So but yeah, listen, I don't think I'd be where I am without you. You know that. because what was said previously, it's systematic, it's easy to follow. And yes, you're right, you're not a touchy-feely guy, but you actually are very warm. I don't know if you know that.
I did
But
not
you
know.
really, you have a lot of warmth to you. But anyway, which I appreciate. But I think the challenges for me have been, getting the stuff out there consistently. I'm doing better at it, I believe, in the last few weeks. And it was like this light bulb moment when I said to you, oh, I think somebody, actually, it was about one connection, who I contacted this guy to send out some information about my caregiving course. He's got like 15,000 LinkedIn connections. And he said, well, why don't you start posting a video on Tuesdays and give these helpful hints, these tips, some information. So I said, I discussed it with you. We said it was a great idea. And then from there, I said, because as you know, and it's just what you said, going live for me isn't the most comfortable thing in the world, but I think I'm getting a little better. I'm still not doing it live. I'm recording it, but I am doing it. And then I came up with this idea, gee, why don't I do it Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday? So I see my own growth through that process. And this morning, some of what I was also doing was writing what I was going to do for Monday and Tuesday, because I'm going to record it today in advance.
Great, great. And I gotta say, Paul, welcome, man. I appreciate you being here right on Johnny on the spot. Your work
No
is
problem, no
outstanding.
problem.
So we've got it streaming into our Facebook group right now. If you'd like, I can close that down. If not, I'd love to get you to do some live time interaction with the guys. If you guys have any questions for Paul, things that you can improve on, just industry insider stuff that you've seen, the gross scripting that people are stuck to, the fear that people have about whatever it is they're trying to do, and they're not able to do that. Like, what you do is outstanding. So I appreciate you being here, and I'm, back off and let you speak on it a little bit if you don't mind.
Sure, I'll kick in with my 2 cents. I just stepped in as Phyllis was talking about the understanding of learning how to create content. That's what I do. I had a conversation with Phyllis quite a while back. Learning how to create content is actually not that difficult as long as you understand what it means to make the stuff. We are living in a world, it's a nascent world of online social media. I mean, the fact is that some of the people who are talking as if they are gurus have been doing this for maybe 6 years, maybe 8 years. And that is this still at the baby beginner phases of any development of any major movement. How long has TV been around in order to get to, whatever version of itself is now, right? Many, many, many decades.
Right.
So here we are actually being sold a bill of goods by a bunch of people who want to sell you a bunch of horse shit, which is listen to this particular template that I'm offering you and follow it to the T and write down your why and then copy paste all of your stuff into this particular little form, and then maybe I'll teach you how to use a teleprompter app so that you can sound like a boring piece of shit that's saying the stuff that you don't actually speak because we don't write the way we speak. And that's somehow going to cause you to pick up a bunch of clients for real money. You fucking kidding me? I mean, okay, so maybe you detect a little sarcasm. I am a little sarcastic about some of this stuff. The fact is that if you think for 1 second that you are going to make some fantastical, extraordinary accomplishments in the space of a few weeks by following someone's template, you deserve exactly what you're asking for. The word starts with S, ends with R, and has suck written in the middle of it. You know, the unfortunate truth is that you follow people who you care about, whether it be good actors, good directors, good writers, good poets, good musicians, good, I don't know what the fuck, good anything, who are truly unique, and they have surrounded themselves with everything that it takes to strengthen their inner core so that they can find their unique voice. And those are the people that you find interesting. And yet there's people out here laying claim to the fact that you can actually do it by copying someone else's templates. Wow. So that's why I think of this as the nascent social media phase. The guts of everything we hold near and dear has everything to do with learning how to articulate the stuff that is truly profound, unique, and unapologetically opinionated based on your ethical truth.
I love that, man. That's why I love following your work, and it's again, you know, it's what you say comes from the experience of having been able to say that on stages. That you've been doing this for a long time, so the perspective that you have is unique, unlike most business people that aren't in the performance space. You know, these are people that just know their own industry or their own business, or they're stuck in a cubicle and they've never been in front of people. When you're accompanying those kinds of individuals for the first time, I remember you said a few months ago that business people are some of the hardest that you have to work with, because at least actors have some sort of, you know, emotive quality, whereas like business owners, not so much.
True.
Speak to that a little bit.
Sure. You know, the business people are no different than anybody else. It's just that we are holding ourselves to the hopes and prayers that someone will like our shit enough to buy it. And whenever we do that, we will tense up and do the safe stuff. And that runs contrary to everything that people actually find themselves attracted to. The people who are able to make themselves bold so that they are not trying to be liked are the people who are going to present the opinions that will give people reason to believe that, you know, they are capable of being an authority in their world, being a leader, and playing safe ain't gonna cut it.
Love it. The primary aim and target for the folks that are going to receive the primary video for this are going to be between the ages of 17 and about 25. As they get into their careers, is there something that you would recommend that they do starting off in that age bracket? You know, it's like you've seen the industry from all sorts. What would you say to the kids that are coming in?
Don't follow people who are a few years older than you, because they don't know shit about anything. They think they do. The golden exoskeleton that comes with that particular age is that people think they actually know a bunch of stuff. It enables people who are young to make big, bold decisions if they choose to make big, bold decisions. As you know, and I'm not saying this to beat anybody down. I'm saying this because how much, I was there. I've been there, I've done that, and I've taught many, many, many people who are of that age. I know exactly the sort of spectrum of bulletproof thought processes and understanding of what it means to, devil may care, madcap, go out and do the shit I want to do because, I have youth on my side. There's a giant chasm between the delusional understanding that what you think you know is reality in the world versus what you eventually understand to be the stuff that you should be learning from people who have gotten the lumps that you couldn't have gotten at that age. Life ain't easy. Life's not about being fair. It has nothing to do with that. So we step into an understanding of who we want to become by gaining the wisdom of the people who have actually not been right there, but have gotten bent over and reamed often enough and gotten back up so that they can eventually develop the clarity that enables them to look back upon that stuff with a peaceful understanding of the actual truth versus the perceived truth.
I love that. Now, clearing off that perception of truth bullshit. Like, that's the thing that everybody is like, you can't, no, like, that's what media tells you. That's the shit that you're shunted down your throat if you try to turn on the TV and you get all this new, whatever they fucking pass as news these days. Like, you're in an international situation there, Paul. What's it like doing business outside of the US indoctrination systems? Like, you've had to do stuff on an international scale, much to the likes and the degrees that most people in the United States don't get to see. Can you talk on that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I started performing around the world when I was 24, and I started to travel full-time shortly thereafter. And at first I thought I needed to give people a wide berth. For example, I was in Holland discussing problems in the world with some, people I had just met, and they, the delights as well as the ridiculousness of the United States in its imperious world police notions, came up in conversation. So I felt I had to sort of give people a wide berth, maybe be a little bit defensive, but also be open-minded. And eventually there came a point where I started to realize, wait a minute. The United States, because we're loud and large, we know an awful lot, but everybody knows about all of our faults as well. So I can just look at the good and the bad of the United States and also look at the good and the bad of everywhere else. So I approached those people when I was having further conversations with them and say, explain to me how, here in Holland, you folks have not disseminated horrible, ungodly horseshit upon other places in the world like South Africa, Mr. Afrikaans, right? Explain to me how the United States is so much worse. Politicians make the world into a shitty place, but people are actually good and bad everywhere. And the wonderful thing is the communication. So the reason I even bring that up is that, Brian, you and I well know that if you end up traveling a little bit, or if you end up opening your mind to meeting other people, at their level, wherever they are in your town, it will give rise to a conversation where you may well find plenty of common ground with that person, regardless of how different they may appear at first glance, right? It's about individuals. And the individual must actually know what one stands for, why one stands for that, and what one intends by what one wishes to say, and when you can actually sort of stand in your own truth, no matter where you are, you'll be capable of offering something of value. And if instead, like coming back to the other little rant that I made just a few moments ago, if you do your very best to be liked, you are pandering. And if you are pandering, you are just presenting a sorry ass, lame, lackluster, less than stellar version of yourself every time.
Yeah, pandering is such a waste of fucking time. You know, and you have to stand in it. And when it comes to talking with Mike about the hermetic thought, or with Phyllis about the longevity space, and as Daniel grows into his own practices, whatever they be in the years, right? He's the youngest one of our community. He's just about to turn 18 in December. So he's working his way up through his current job situation, and he's been getting promoted more. He's been, more responsibilities and all of these things. As he goes through his career, whatever it turns into being, do you have any advice that you might send his way?
Yeah, you don't know where you're going to be in 5 years. You have no idea. You may be right where you are right now. Maybe for a brief period of time, you'll even experience a certain amount of, your first taste of making what you consider to be the next level of a lot of money. And ultimately, you'll get to a point where you start to realize that all of those cool little firsts are a taste of something valuable, but they're empty compared to finding and pursuing what you truly believe in your core of your being. And whether or not you choose to entrench yourself in a particular, single-minded purpose for the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years or the rest of your life, there will come a point where you'll get that pursuing the things you truly care about, pursuing the things you absolutely love, will provide far more value than mere money, and it will make everything worth it.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet, man.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, sure. Do your thing, do your own thing. I've always enjoyed meeting people who were a little bit older than me, who knew some shit that I didn't know, and I would hang out with them. I've always done my best when learning whatever thing to go to the people who seem to be at the next level, and I literally impose myself upon them until they say enough. The ones that say enough, fuck them. I leave. But I sort of inflict myself upon them so that I can ask questions and learn from the people who allow me to. I'm older than you, and I'm still doing it. I don't have a lot of patience for people who are not willing to assist me in learning the next shit, and I do my very best to pass that on in the same exact way, just like I did with Big Mike here.
And I appreciate that very much. The assist to our community, and to be able to create a legacy of wherever we meet somebody who's going to be like, all right, well, there's there's only one person. It's going to be Paul that I'm going to send you to. Like, that's the flow through, is like what you've done to help us here will allow us to integrate what it is you've got to do, but also it gives us the opportunity. Like for me, I'm still learning from you. Like there's a world of things that comes through your mentorship programs that you're just not going to find anywhere else. And that's what I really appreciate about you and you being here today, man. It really does help. And you know, it gives the opportunity for people that otherwise wouldn't get to know you. They wouldn't get to have this interaction with you. So I'm going to shut up, guys. Talk to Paul. Like, this is your chance to talk to him about whatever's going on. Do you have any questions that would be able to also help our potential viewers in the future also with relations to what they're going to see regarding these things? Nobody's talking once, everybody, you know.
I'll say this. I was talking with one of my clients yesterday, and he wanted to give me a testimonial. So we had an hour-long interview. It was a loose interview, and it was going to be about his success because he joined my program and he was scared to do what I suggested, and he ran away from the directions that I was telling him to go into himself for a while. And then once he embraced them, he started to have some nice success. So we were celebrating that he had his first 5-figure month last month. He made $12,500. And it took him a little while, but he was delighted because the affirmation of his efficacy has now gone, enabled him to see everything anew. Now we can go to the next steps together because he's gotten through a series of levels of things that needed, that were required, right? This is the roller coaster ride of the upward, climb. And so I was going to talk with him about the success, and he was going to talk to me about the success. And we ended up talking about the synergy of the world and how everything is connected.
Oh, I love it. Oh, I love it.
And it's so interesting to abandon the idea of this type of success or that type of success and focus on a far more profound sense of the journey. And so many people want to get their leg up. They want to get their first, first $500, first $1,000. I remember getting my first $1,000. I remember getting my first $5,000 client. I remember having my first $10,000 month, and I remember having my first $46,000 day. I don't make $46,000 every day. That's not what it's about. But the milestones that I actually think of far more often are the minor epiphanies that someone gets when we get on the next call, and I can see it before they see it. And they, I tell them this all the time, I'm going to see it before you do. But that's just the nature of the beast. I've been doing this for a while so I can pay attention to their things, but those epiphanies that you see in someone's growth, those signify the up and coming financial windfalls, but they are so much more rewarding and interesting, and the money will come. Of course it'll come. We all want the money to be some kind of proof, but in fact, all of that other cool shit that's happening that paves the way That's the stuff that's of the value.
Yes. Oh, I agree. Oh, I absolutely agree. It's my favorite thing to do is be in a Zoom call with Daniel and Mike and listen to their successes. What are they doing? Like, what's their biggest of the week? And just those nudges, like when I get the text at 12 a.m., yeah, Daniel's got a question. It's like, oh, there's a question. All right, let's do this thing. You know,
No, man.
it's those wins where you get to see those implementations on the daily. You get to see that next level of, all right, they're doing this thing. They got this thing. All right, now what's the next thing? And it's that progression, and they're actually doing it. They're actually learning. They're into, you know, they're into the thing that they're doing, and they're talking about it, and they're sharing about it. It's like Mike's unintentional inclusion of the website or the books or whatever it is that he's talking about. He's like, he's not trying to sell people on it. He's just like, go for it, do this, because it's fun. You know, and it's trying to share that level of connection, that level of enjoyment, I think gets lost in a lot of times because people get really, really too much into their own head and less into why their shit should matter.
Yeah,
You know,
I agree. We get, like I said before, we throttle ourselves and get in our own way because we want the stuff to work. And if we can look at the thing and say, actually, everything's part of everything. It's all connected in various ways. And I am moving where I need to go. So I might as well fucking enjoy it.
that's it. That's it. What would be the ideal use for your kind of training? Like, what do you see for people that go through your programs, Paul? What are your goal with them to be able to do 6 months in, 12 months in?
Wait, what
5 years?
happened here?
My goal is fearless, liberated self-expression on every level. And I may actually be running contrary to a lot of people's notions of what it means to niche down or dial in or whatever it is. But the truth is that I'm interested in offering people an opportunity to be part of the solution, the antidote, the cure, the alternative to everything that is generic and sprinkled with the look like me powder.
I love that. Oh, I fucking love that. Yeah, anything I can do to help, man. Like
This is delightful. I mean, you and I have been enjoying each other's company for a while here, Bri, and I'm interested in the people who get where I'm coming from, and I teach people how to create content that does two things at once: attracts the people they want and repels the people they don't want. I've created this way of doing things because I truly believe in it. The only way that any good performer can end up getting invited to travel around the world and perform is if they create something unique. So creating uniqueness is where I'm at. And when it comes to business, I believe the same thing. Fascinating thing is that in business, in the social media world, it's about coming up with content, and I know how to teach people to have an easy time creating it. I never have to try to figure out content. I have so many notes, I have so many lists. All I have to do is choose something. And I don't go back to my lists. I wake up, I can scroll some social media once or twice and I will find something that will plug me in to the thing I'm going to talk about that day. And, the method I teach, and you know this, Bri, the method I teach, once you get the hang of it, you're capable of coming up with an idea, putting it through the little program that allows you to organize your thoughts so that with a little practice and a certain amount of one-on-one feedback with me, it gets to the point where you can press play, record a short form, interesting thing, as opposed to a 20 or 30 or 40-minute boring ass piece of shit.
Yeah.
And upload it. Done.
I like that. And I do heavily agree with what you said earlier about the simple monetary value not being the end goal. I mean, that is the freedom, but that's not the end. That is the breaking of the barrier that allows you to do the things that you enjoy, to follow those things that you truly care about. Not, having X amount isn't what lays you to rest at night. It's doing those things that actually fulfill you, And I totally understand that. And I thought that was very well put. I like that.
Thanks, man.
I love this short form stuff that you do. It's like hey, here's a thing. Boom, let's put it out. A lot of the content that Mike and I create ends up coming, or even with Daniel and everybody, it comes from conversations. It's like, oh my God, that was really good. Let's hit the record button, say it again. And then be done.
Oh yeah.
tons of that, because it's like, it's in the moment. And that's how we get a lot of the content that we do. So it's like, I'm not trying to structure a whole bunch of shit like these challenge concepts. Yeah, there's 5 of them that I've done, but there's a purpose that goes deeper than just like oh my God, it's a boring hour thing. Right? It's these it's the snippets. And thank God for that program that you recommended for that easy video editing, man. Like, that shit has been a godsend. Super easy, and it's almost intuitive to work. So yay for Filmora people if you haven't, played with that. But man, for a while there, Mike was my video editor because I couldn't figure out the fucking programming. It's like these things get so complicated, or there's just so many little layers of nuance to all of these things that people need to do in order to deliver their thing into the marketplace of sufficient quality. But if they're not delivering it at a sufficient quality, then no one's paying attention. Right?
Yeah. The current thing is, because Alex Hormozy is such a big name in some of this social media stuff now, the way those videos are presented is now referred to as Hormozy style videos, and people are sending inbox stuff saying, I can make your Hormozy style videos. And although, of course, that is a flavor of the month or the year, and eventually things will shift, the one illusion that people have is that if my steaming pile of miserable fucking video can be put in the hands of some video editor who can give me Hormozy style stuff, they'll make it good. You can't polish a turd and expect it to turn into a turkey dinner.
This is
Yeah.
reshoot notes, watch your content, see how it sucks, improve it.
I don't edit any of my stuff. My stuff is unedited. I press record, I bring it, I stop, and I post it.
I dig.
Raw, unfiltered.
So,
Raw, unfiltered. Here's the other interesting thing. I mean, I'll tell you folks and whoever else is listening. You folks all know this, so I know I'm talking directly to your truth. As soon as you see a single aspect of any video that is edited, you know in your heart and mind, this has been created as a manipulation, regardless of how true it is. It has been deliberately sculpted. And if you see something that is unedited and is equally impactful, you'll take a look at that and say, that person's speaking the truth from the heart. Zero
Synthetic.
manipulation means that we are not being manipulated. And there isn't a single person here that craves being deceived, being connived and convinced and cajoled, mollified, tweaked, and adjusted. We actually applaud ethical, no bullshit, no fluff gold.
Right. It feels less synthetic when it's raw, unfiltered, and out there. It feels more
Mhm.
like you can focus on what's being said rather than the convincing of which. I mean, the raw, unfiltered more so speaks for itself. It's more powerful than all of the lights, cameras, and action, you know?
Yeah, it is. Absolutely.
It's like
when you-
food.
yeah, it's like food. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
food for your ears.
Yeah, any meat that has the word product on the end, it's got to make you think. This is the best meat food product I've ever had in my fucking life. Oh, really, Howie?
Yeah, you know, exactly like I don't know, cheese. You know, you can get the cheese processed out of the little single serve packet, or you can go somewhere or like some sort of market or something and get a quality unfiltered raw product, and the quality is so much better. I mean, I usually don't use food as a to connect the dots, but it just made sense.
Yeah, it was in you were following my thread, but yeah, exactly. And it can be anything. I mean, the fact is, if when I see someone doing cool shit and they're talking about good stuff, and suddenly I see, no matter how close their head is to exactly where it was before, if I see that there's an edit, I take a look and say, oh yeah, right. Of course this was edited. This person had to say it again. And I wonder how many more I can catch. It takes me right out of the thing. And I saw some stand-up comedians came to Copenhagen. I live in Denmark now. I'm from New York, but I had the good fortune to see you can like him or hate him. I don't care. I saw Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock a couple weeks ago.
Cool.
And when they did their stuff, you go out there live in front of an audience, and there's no editor. There's no one who can save you. You bring it like a fucking badass. And they did. I mean, top-notch professional stuff, inspiring. I was delighted to be there. And there's a different feeling in this online amateur world where you can see someone saved by editing, but when you see someone who's not being saved by editing and they're still just doing their own thing, you take a look and say, huh, damn. And I know you do, because I do too. And I know I get those responses from people. And I'm interested in revolution of people who embrace these same principles, learn how to bring it unfiltered and raw.
That's great. Why do you
Feels
think?
better. It feels better too.
It does. It's a lot more freeing and fun when you can just say, fuck it, whatever. Let's just do this thing. But like Phyllis, you don't get on live. You don't do the live yet. You like to record it beforehand. And what kind of stuff that maybe you could talk with Paul, like what kind of thing that you guys could talk about that might help people with that initial fear? Like, what is it? The fear? Is it the what? Like, how to hit the live button, for fuck's sake? Just go live. Is it? What would you say about that? Like, to those that just don't, or they won't they won't hit the live button, or they won't interact with people.
There's I take people through a series of progressions that enable them to get to a point where they know what they want to say so that they're doing it well. If you believe what you believe and you've investigated what you believe so that you know it's of value, then you're doing yourself a disservice to not put it out there. The inner censor is a cruel master, and learning how to wrestle that into being of value when and where it is required actually is not as easily done by yourself as it is by going to somebody who can guide you there. The more I'm working in this online space, the more I see that it's just like the thousands of people I've taught live since 1987, which is you have to, you need someone who can sort of hold your hand and drag you occasionally kicking and screaming, and the rest of the time just following right behind you, making sure you move where you need to go, so that they can combine accountability with a form that shows you that you're moving in the right direction. And gradually you will get there.
I like the fact that you say gradually. I like the fact that it's not, oh my God, tomorrow you're going to be great. Like, no, today it'll suck, tomorrow it'll suck, but tomorrow it might suck less.
Tomorrow it will suck less. Actually, sometimes it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and sometimes it's 1 step forward, 2 steps back, but the overall progression will move you where you deserve to be. The issue, and I'm sure that this will resonate with some of you, and if you've never heard this before and you don't believe it, then why are you still listening? But you are inside of your own head. You are inside of your own work. You are a subjective viewer of your own. And as the subjective moderator of your own work, you cannot see the way it is viewed from the outside eye, because the outside eye looks at your stuff objectively. You are inside your stuff, and you require someone who has a keen understanding of what it means to parse the objectivity and translate it to you in order to enable the subjective you to deliver the objective goods you want to. That's why you get a mentor. That's why you get a coach. That's why you get someone from the outside. That person is not going to feel for you so much that they get inside your work and prevent themselves from being on the outside and seeing the way it deserves to be delivered. So we need to couple the subjective inner with the objective outer. And that's why you get someone else to walk you through the work. Coupled with the accountability, because everybody is dealing with the fact that life has chaos, and life's chaos is just going to occasionally get in the way, and you need to be, reined in, kept on track.
I very much agree with that. Like, this is why I like studying with your stuff so much, is because there is so many congruencies to what you say and what I'd like to see in the world when it comes to like the delivery of these kinds of things. It's like with one of the institutions that I'm supposed to be teaching for the grade school. It's an online platform. It's been around since 2007. It's one of the world's oldest established training facilities for wizards and upcoming people like that. It's built upon the framework that was created from the Harry Potter concept. But what if the best in the community came together and actually did it? So back in the early 2000s, Oberon Zell was heavily involved in the civil rights movements in the 60s. Like, it's part of his work is the reason why we have the Title IV Act, the Civil Rights Act in 1964, and just in general. And that alone kept me from getting expelled in high school back in the day, right? And it's giving that mentorship back. It's finding a way for those kids, even where I can't get it, to go look to people like you or like Dean, Tony, Pete, Pat, all the big gurus out there, right? They're using the models and stuff that I've been teaching online since 2012. It's just they had the money to throw behind it. And so as they go through and they do their thing, and as everybody does their thing, there's what people do on the back end of their presentation, what they do with it once it's done, and then there's why they do it in the first place. Do you think people think about doing the thing in the first place more than they think about what they're going to do with it afterwards?
I
Like-
think that people are so focused on using the theory to answer the questions and write down their why, or some people are referring to it as currently referred to as the dot, or whatever the fuck it is. And they lose sight of an understanding that in this online world where video is king and queen, I mean, we watch more Netflix streaming stuff, YouTube, and we watch more video than we do anything else these days. And they forget that because we write differently than we speak, learning how to actually speak, say clearly, concisely what we truly believe will enable us to unlock and unleash all of the things quicker than diving into theory and sitting there in our own little cave, writing our shit down, creating tomes and tomes and tomes. If you learn how to, I'm a big advocate, in case you haven't gotten this yet, I'm a big advocate of presentational self-actualization. And if you can say what you really mean the way you truly want to, then you no longer will be limiting yourself, not only in your business and in this particular going concern of your passion play of truth or whatever it is, but you will also be able to articulate every single fucking other thing that you ever feel in your life whenever it's necessary.
I love that. I love that.
Did that sort of tangentially touch the question?
Oh yeah, I mean the advocacy aspect of what it is, it's a conviction.
Yeah.
You have to have a conviction for what you do. You have to understand that conviction and how that conviction can help others. That's one of the things why I like working with Mike so much, is because he exudes that every time he opens his mouth about when it comes to cannabis or kratom or taking your health into your own hands because they're poisoning us on an industrial level. Like that's important. And when it comes to Phyllis, when you get her going, it's about the right things and the right steps in the elder care and the advocacy and the horror stories she's got from inside the nursing care facilities. And it's to be able to unlock those conversations instead of the industrialized, like you have to look a certain way, you have to sound a certain way, you have to be a certain person in a facility or in an institution. And that gets boring. And that gets tiring.
Yeah.
And nobody's like that. Nobody goes to work and wants to behave like they're in a fucking cubicle. Like we've all seen Office Space. We want to take the bat to the printer. Let's fucking just do that. You know? But that was what was different about the retail shop I had and the kind of staff that I employed and the type of people that we worked with, is because we sold sex toys. You know, when people came through my threshold, it was, what's going to get you off today? Go fuck yourself. Have a nice day. It was literally for that purpose. Like it's a different world when you're free.
Yeah,
And getting
there's a lot of people who are gonna judge. People are critics, you know, people have an inherent ability to be a critic of someone else's stuff, and it takes some work to not let their words hurt you. But with the right type of guidance, you can get to a point where you can proudly stand with what you believe in your own shoes and bring it the way you want to. I don't know any, you know, Meryl Streep has an acting coach. Beyonce has a singing coach and a dancing coach. Tony Robbins learned from people like me how to present well. He didn't just do that.
Yeah.
He paid people a fucking shitload to learn how to become a good presenter. And if he were boring, he wouldn't be where he is now. Everybody who gets where they gets there by actually ponying up, and you get what you pay for. You pay someone practically nothing. Don't delude yourself into thinking that you're getting the same as, you know, if and when somebody tells you my $300 program is the same shit you'll get for 10 grand. They are full of shit. Every single time.
Thank you.
You get what you pay for, and as soon as you can afford real stuff for real money, do it. It will actually make a difference. Don't buy the stupid shit, buy the good shit. You know, it's I know plenty of people who are trying to do what I do, and you know, you can waste your money on them, or you can put good money into people like me, but you know, that's the difficult.
This is why I'm putting my money into you, is those people. You know, it's like, this is why you're the guy that I'm learning this shit from as best I can right now while we're growing everything else. You know, it's like, I've been running this as a nonprofit for years, and I'm going to be using these videos, one as a donation to finish off those requirements, but also as a stepping point into doing things for sale, into doing those kinds of things. But what I do and how I do and why, that's, you know, that's going to be a different conversation than helping people learn how to even start these conversations. You know, it's because finding a mentor, finding the people in the industry is the first step that you're going to have to do. Like, that's how Daniel came to me, is he stole one of my books, hit me up back in December last year, and it's been like weekly chats with him since. Like, that's how this should happen.
Yeah, that was nice. I ripped off one of his bigger books off of this website that I was using to pirate and, just grab books, coming from poverty and everything. I was like, you know what? This is here right now, all of this information. Fuck it. And then I saw the name and I saw the book and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna reach out. Why not? What could happen?
Mm.
And here we are.
There's more to it than, there's more to value than money, right? And
Amen.
right. I'm actually at an interesting place in my situation, which is I have an online program, and people could pirate that, but they won't learn what I can teach. They'll learn, the amount of free stuff that I give in my content is, everything can be compiled into the same course. And I'm actually considering stopping just selling the course as its own thing because it's not necessary. What is necessary is the actual group work or the, one-on-ones and things like that. That's where I know that I bring it, and all the other stuff is already readily available. So, someone could pirate it and sell the course. It won't get anybody what I know. It'll just get them all the things that are the theory behind the stuff. The rest of it has to do with a combination of the practice and, in particular, the highlighted critique, commentary, feedback. That's where people grow.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I heavily agree with that. I used to, I don't know, listening to critique and that feedback is one of the most important things. I remember one of my favorite quotes or things revolving that is from Gordon Ramsay, where he talks about only listening to the negative feedback and that critique. I remember a long years ago, I heard that and I was like, okay, that makes sense. And then I see that everywhere I go. I don't improve by listening to the positive shit because everyone can and will say that, They're like, yeah, good job. But it's fixing what is wrong and improving that. You don't improve by doing the same thing over and over the same way. You improve by fixing what is downtrodden. I
Let's
agree
talk about
with it.
Paul's material. Because I know just the hour that I spent with Paul, my material was boring. I would say things and just talk in a roundabout circle way. And in just the hour that I spent with this intelligent man, he just taught me how to structure my videos, the key points on what to talk and how to present them as far as putting more character into them. That was the biggest lesson that really hit me, because when I talk, I was like, I just talk like this, the all people aren't going to listen like that. You got to actually get into it, believe what you're saying, present to them as if you were on the other side. And that was the biggest thing that opened my eyes. So, yeah, thank you, Paul, for that hour. I learned a lot from that, man.
Yeah, you bet. My pleasure. And when you can step up and join, we can do that on a regular basis. And man, you'll sky's the limit for sure. Yeah, it is. I like to make jokes about the whole idea of what Daniel just said about the negative feedback versus the affirmations. People who give those attaboys like "you got this," you won't hear me saying that shit because it doesn't fucking do anything. I'd rather give somebody some critique that says, actually, consider changing this by doing it this way. That's far better than you got this. They don't give a fuck about whether or not you didn't get it. They'll just be there to say, oh, sorry.
And that's not a coach. That's not a mentor.
That's not a man, exactly. You know, what's that joke? That joke in the movie Stripes, where Harold Ramis, who wrote that, very good writer, and he was one of the soldiers in the little group that was in basic training, and he said he introduced himself and he said a few things about himself, and he just said, I like what I'm hearing here, and I want you folks to know that when we're out there in the front lines, I'll be behind you every step of the way. That's what all of these people saying you got this are like. They're behind you saying you got this, and if you fail, they'll say, ooh, that looks like it hurt. And then they'll immediately say, well, I have to be somewhere. I see ya. You know.
You know, and it's in that nature of they're failing their responsibility. I find that coaches that don't spend time with their people to be failures.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
It's like you spend time in the chat talking to people. You spend time in your Zooms talking to people. Like, you do the work, man. You know, and
Yeah, I reach out.
those new folks that are coming into coaching, or they think that they're going to make a bunch of money in the online coach. Oh, I can sell my shit online. No, motherfucker, you can't, because it sucks. It's got to be proven in the industry first. You got to prove that you don't suck, right? Something about you has to not suck. What is that thing that doesn't suck?
What's that thing? Show me. Show us.
Right.
Bring it.
And then how do you do it in a way that is like compelling, short enough for people to pay attention? And it's like, oh my God, like things. But
yeah,
you know, that's why people need to pay for services. This is why that kind of thing is important. And when you do put money into what you're doing, you elevate the craft of what you do. At least that's the way I think. You know, it's like,
if you're anything like me, you see someone's video and you'll immediately mouse over and see how long it is. If if you see some of my stuff and I'm just kind of riffing because it was a live and I had people on there who were commenting on stuff, the thing will end up being 25 minutes. I don't expect people to sit there through them. I'm always pleasantly surprised when they do it on a replay, but okay, fine. But the fact is that if I see something of yours and it's not boring in the first 20 seconds, and I mouse over it and see that it's 30 minutes long, I'm stopping. But if it's 4 minutes and the first 20 seconds is good, I'll sit through it and give it a shot.
that's great.
And if you don't learn how to do that, you're losing almost everybody.
There's a few of our videos that we've posted up from just some of the days that we've spent in conversation. They're between 4 and 5 hours long. Those have had more views on our YouTube channel than the short shit.
Okay, I have been dressed down and I accept that and acknowledge it.
Like, I mean, because the thing is about, like, when you're talking about witches and sorcery and meditations and the planar shit, that's like, you gotta know what's about to fall out of these people's face, because there's some shit that goes down and it's like, oh my God, what the fuck is about to happen?
Yeah, maybe that's very interesting. I can amend my thing and say, we're looking at either making really solid 4 minutes, or your stuff has to be at least 3.5 to 4 hours.
There you go. There's no division. It's like the super long shit or the super short shit. It's like
there's no
class. Like,
there's no comfortable space in between. It's either
right.
make it 90 seconds or 90 hours.
So I appreciate you so much today, Paul. Thank you so much for joining us. And to everybody, thank you for the day too. We're going to wrap it up here today and just see y'all tomorrow morning, bright, shiny, same time.
Go get
All
them.
right.
All the best to you folks.
Thank
It
you,
was
Paul.
lovely meeting you. Have
Thank
a
you
wonderful
so much,
day.
man.